Hi,
Hi, I'm Troy,
I'm Justin.
and this is Sword Buddies. This is going to be a smaller, shorter podcast than the one we're going to be doing. It's just us coming back from class late at night on Wednesdays, and
Talking about what we learned, what we did today.
yeah. So first off, Justin, tell me about your sword art, sword buddy.
My sword art is late Renaissance Italian rapier. It was predominant in the late 16th century through the beginning part of the 1600s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mostly meant for street duels.
Okay.
There was a lot, but the treatise I studied was written in 1609, I think, for the King of Denmark.
Cool.
What do you do?
I do Muso, Jikden, Eishin, Iaido, which is classical Japanese swordsmanship. It's essentially unarmored samurai training against other unarmored samurai. Like just in the street, protecting, whoever you're traveling with, your daimyo, anyone you were working with, and just how to react in certain situations when sitting or standing or in various very specific situations.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's during the Edo period. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I should say that the particular treatise that I studied was written by Scoula Di Fabris of Padua, Italy.
Okay. I also should say then that
Uh-oh.
it's Sputnik. Just a moment.
I should say that my treatise specifically is written by Salvador Fabris of Padua, Italy.
Mm-hmm. In the specific time?
Late Renaissance, he wrote it in 1609.
Okay. That's okay. That's the highest treatise. Cool. My school was founded by. I have to have his name right for every single test we do. Hayashizaki Jinsuke Minamoto Shigenobu no. No, hold on. Oh, jeez. I'd fail my test.
Fail.
I missed it this year. Coronavirus stopped it.
Ooh.
We can only test. So real quick, for my school, we can only test once a year when one of our head teachers from Japan, comes over and adjudicates all of the tests. So we only have that one chance to come from schools from Michigan, from Oklahoma, all over Texas, Louisiana. We only have one chance a year. And if you're from the first to fifth, sixth ranks, you can gain a rank every year, reasonably. If you're a consistent practitioner,
Okay.
you can gain a rank every year. It's dedication, and you got to go.
Yeah.
But you can reasonably do it. After the sixth rank, it starts being 2 years or 3 years between being able to actually, take that next step or learn that next bit of knowledge that level should attain. So for the higher ups, it's fine. And it's looking like there's not going to be a test next year either, because coronavirus is now spiking every day in Japan as well.
Anyway,
Sorry.
this is Sword Buddies.
Yeah, it's Sword Buddies.
We're talking about swords.
Yes. Sorry. It's related. It's related.
It is related, and that's really stressful. I'm sorry that you had to miss your test.
Yeah.
But, hey, next year you're going to crush it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We don't have any rankings. We more of there's an honor system based on how long you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a wide range. We have someone in his 50s, and we have a kid who just joined who's 16
Mm-hmm.
and homeschooled. And just a pretty wide range. I mean,
Pretty big spread.
not an extremely diverse group, but still a pretty wide spread of life,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But what did you do tonight?
Tonight we We did some standing drills. We did our basic standing set. I got to work on the advanced standing set, which I'm just now learning for the first time. Well, I've done a couple classes of it before, but really getting time to work on it, I haven't had. And it's really situational stuff. Like the basic set is all very broad strokes, like a very basic horizontal or a vertical cut, or a very basic diagonal with one hand or two hands. This is asking for like all kinds of breaking these rules that I've been forced to learn. It's all kind of like, okay, now you're going around your head, you're stepping off the path, and you're tapping the sword where your foot would be if it was on the path. It's really specific, weird stuff that is situational that I have to wrap my head around, and it's tricky.
Every single night, Tim, my teacher, will teach us a new move out of the book, like a new plate. Like we have to read it, we have to read the treatise, and then he will pick a plate or an action. Like right now we're exploring book 2 because we've done it. We're technically like 9 months, 8 months into the year period, but coronavirus took a few months out of that.
Yeah, of course.
But every night he'll teach us a new action, and then we have to try and do it in real life. And every single action that he teaches us has like 3 or 4 different variations that are all situational based on a single moment of what your opponent does. And if we're fighting in this tempo, in between these moments of like our actions fill the beats within this tempo of like I try to infiltrate your guard, you counter with like refilling your guard, and everything happens within that tempo. I have to break it to get to you.
Yeah.
And there are certain rules of like how you feel between the tempo of if this is my beat and that's your beat and you did nothing in your beat, I have a moment to get you.
Okay.
But the way I get you is all situational about what you did in your moment. And so that's probably what it is, but I don't think you guys practice across from something that is like a body or another person.
We do have paired practice where we do have those drills where we have using wooden swords because we don't use our aluminum swords for that.
Yeah.
Just like feeling each other on the blade, the pressure, especially with how they were made, where the tips are, and how to kind of get around them. So we do have that kind of practice. I'm really lucky in that my sensei, she has had a lot of training and a lot of time to work on that.
Yeah.
So she uses us as practice dummies because we're nowhere near what we should be to learn that stuff. But it's really helpful because with my practice, we don't practice across from another person. We don't practice one versus one. That's why we're allowed to still practice during all these things because we can social distance just fine. But because there's nothing really you can do because it's all resolute actions. It's about creating these perfectly powered structures using the architecture of your body to cut with the maximum amount of force using this itty bitty 3 centimeters that have been polished.
That's actually the same rule with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
All of this blade is blunted for defense. Historically, the only real part that's sharp is this bit.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing everything with this, but that point will puncture anything. If it goes in you, it's going through you.
Yeah.
With the right amount of application, with the proper application.
Question.
Yes.
Italy, right?
Yes. Renaissance Italy, man.
It would have...
Assassin's Creed just 100 years later.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking, because the only thing I can think about, every time we talk about our swords, I'm like, every time I think about the historical count that the Portuguese first met the samurai and they dueled, because they want to see who's the better fighter society.
Yeah.
Every time the samurai would lose.
Really?
They would lose every time they would lose, because it was just the length. Europeans, because they had such abundance to steel and materials to make that, they perfected this needle that could just get through that. It wasn't until there was a point when the samurai they sharpened the backs of the tips of the swords, so they were able to start getting in hits, because they were able to start deflecting. They were able to have a strong back to deflect the swords away to get in and thrust just enough. But at that point, it still was just like a reach game.
Yeah, I saw a GIF, that's how I say it, demonstration, a GIF demonstration of a kendo fighter against a rapier fighter, and like the rapier fighter just makes 2 flicks to get a sense of this dude's tempo, and then right as this guy cuts at his head, he just does a drada, which is you thrust forward and you step back into the side. So his cut's coming straight down as his body is just moving so smoothly out of the way, and he stabs him right in the heart, and it's so pretty. That's the one thing that is difficult to tell guys who come in, is this is an elegant weapon.
Oh yeah.
This requires a bit of Dan's experience.
Any martial art is a intelligent endeavor.
Yes.
It is. It takes real application of itself. But one thing you mentioned, kendo people. I don't have a problem with it, because I think it's really important to have that strength and that power to go through. But just like we don't practice across from the person, they don't practice with a real sword.
I guess that's fair.
The techniques that they use with a shinai are really not the same thing you're going to do when you have a shinken, when you have a sharp katana. It's not going to work.
Because they're probably not thinking about blade edge.
Well, the bamboo has a lot more flexibility.
Yeah.
And it's not inaccurate, because it's what they practiced, but it also was developed in a time of peace, when those practices weren't being tested against other live bodies. They were.
That's fair.
It was a way to keep the art around, but not have anyone die.
Yeah. Part of the reason this treatise that I study is widely studied is because the guy who wrote it fought and survived over 200 duels. The whole point of this style is to hit and not get hit. It is a fight to the death, or is a fight to agreed blood drawn from exposition.
Yeah.
Exposition, not exposition.
Anything in particular you learned tonight that you really took away?
I learned a new action, and I have a moment of real pride. My teacher, who is left-handed, I was fencing we fenced maybe 12 bouts. My right arm was getting tired because I had fenced 2 or 3 other guys before that. So I switched to my left. And my first time, left on left, I got him, and he never even got close to getting me. And that felt so good, because I was like, that ambidexterity is paying off. And then he switched to my right, and it was really interesting, because we were on the same side.
And that's your lighter blade, too.
So I didn't use this tonight. I just got this out for example.
You didn't. You used your.
Yeah, I used my Pappenheimer. Is the style it's called. It's technically a clamshell, but it's got a punched out pattern. I think I got.
Why is it called Pappenheimer?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into the history of why it's called Pappenheimer. I know it was a popularly used style from 1560 to 1580. The reason I like it is because a lot of the swept hilts, which are real pretty, have a weakness that not a lot of people have thought about. A lot of them have open ports. And for a martial style that is point to point, you would lose your finger very quickly. And then you can't really fence all that well. You're either down to 3 fingers, which if you can adapt, good for you. But it completely protects this hand.
Yeah.
It creates an actual shield, even though it's only like that big around. But tonight I learned technically a juke feint, where I keep my blade underneath my opponent's, and I juke with my body while keeping my sword there. And if they don't follow me, I can just go straight up and get them in the neck. If they follow me with their tip, I bring, part of the movement is to do the juke and then bring your back foot and hover it for a second. If they follow you with the tip, you just put your foot down and bring your blade up and then thrust. Because if you bring it up, you have your fort against their point, so you have all of your strength against all of their weakness.
You'll have to show me that later.
I will. It's difficult. It is difficult to
That sounds
explain.
funky.
It's difficult to explain, but demonstrated is real fancy.
Yeah.
And that's the move I got 10 with tonight, left-handed, and I landed it once left-handed against a guy, and then once right-handed against the same guy in actual practical application battles.
You need to start recording these, man. Take the camera. Take the camera. You should do it.
Okay.
Show me these things, man.
I can show you at home. I have 2 swords.
Well, I want to see you beat people. I want to see you beat people in class.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm also sure Tim would appreciate it too.
Yeah, he's been asking. There's something I still got to do for him. He's trying to do. He's really good about advertising for our school.
Yeah, I follow y'all.
Scoula Di Fabris on Facebook.
They're having classes, right?
Yes, we have very strict limitations. You have to wear a mask at all times, and social distance as much as you can. Obviously, when you're fighting, a bit limited, but we have gear. So over masks, we have the caged HEMA gear.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of skin to skin or any sort of bodily fluid exchange happening at all.
Yeah, you're not getting up close and personal like a hand-to-hand art would.
If I am, it is literally for less than a second. Yeah.
But you're being safe.
Yeah.
But as
and we have to wear gloves. It's a lot of protective gear that with a mask on that we were very covered.
But as of August, y'all are open.
Yeah.
Where do y'all meet?
We meet off of Cedar Post.
Cool.
I think it's Alliance Fencing.
Awesome.
Yeah. The name is Tim Garino. I think that's how you say it. Don't catch me lying. Don't catch me disrespecting my teacher.
I'll also plug Clear Lake Iaido at Sundance Yoga Studio.
Yeah.
It's fun. One thing I do like about our classes is we have it. It's not bad to have a small number of students because, every now and then people will miss classes. And sometimes you get a one-on-one class with sensei.
Sometimes.
All night. And it's like 2 hours of just, all right, I'm going to pick your game apart. I'm going to pick out everything wrong that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're going to work. And it's just
the payoff after that.
You just hate it while you're in it, but after you get out, you're like, oh, I needed that. I really need to work harder. I need to read more.
I'm not someone who hates having to learn something, because I just want to keep learning new things.
It's more of the frustration of I feel like I am doing this. I am making this effort.
Yeah, you are, and it's that journey of getting to it successfully that is the most rewarding. There are some teachers in SAFD that people are like, you want an intern for that person? He just needs someone to stand across and point at. That's all he needs. Someone competent to hold that and be pointed at and know how to react. Why are you afraid? Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Learning is fun.
Get out there
even if it's
and
with a sword. You heard me. Even if it's with a sword,
Yeah.
learning is fun.
Get hurt with the sword.
Get hurt with a sword.
Go out and
learn today.
no. Don't go out. Don't go out with a sword. That is legal in Texas, but don't do it. Do not do that.
It doesn't invite too much friendliness.
It invites conflict.
That's what yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god! If I saw someone walking around on the sidewalk with just a spy hanger, I'm like,
Oh, is that where we're going?
this is not.
Alright.
We're not in a good place.
And Dark Souls music begins to play.
Oh jeez. With that,
This has been the first episode of Sword Buddies.
sword buddies.
Thanks for tuning in.